I love the light in my living room. These windows are so big and beautiful, but I don't love how exposed it feels. I live on a busy street, so sometimes it feels like I'm living on a stage. I just want a little bit more privacy without blocking the light. So I'm gonna create a stained glass inspired screen using acrylic and film. Something warm, private, and a little bit more considered. This is the plan. I have 3 windows, so I'm gonna build 3 framed panels, 2 smaller ones at the end and then 1 larger one in the middle. I want these to feel very much built in, very warm, mid-century, not too busy. So I'm thinking more architectural than decorative. So let's try it. I start by cutting out cardboard templates because measure twice, cut once, or honestly, if you're gonna cut twice, it might as well be cardboard. Okay, so to keep this renter friendly, I'm using this clear acrylic sheet as my base. And this part needs to be very precise because everything's gonna layer on top of it. To cut the acrylic sheets to size, I score both sides with a utility knife. Then I flip the sheet around so that the short side is on the table and I clamp that tight, lining up my cut edge with the table edge. With the long plastic, I use that as leverage to snap and break the acrylic clean. Come on, that's a perfect fit. It's just being held in there by tension. Hell yeah. To create the stained glass effect, I'm using 5 colors: brown, pink, orange, yellow, and red. And I know what you're thinking, why is the red one so small? I made a mistake and I ordered a sample size and not a full roll. So I've put in a new order, so we'll come back to the red pieces tomorrow. And I'm also using 3 textures. So we're gonna have clear, rain, and frosted. So instead of just adding color, I'm gonna layer it with texture. So each piece will diffuse, obscure, and react with the light differently. I think layering it is gonna give it depth. And if it looks really flat, that will make it look super artificial, which is what I'm trying to avoid. So I have my offcut and we're gonna do some tests and see what looks best. I'm not sure what order to layer everything in, so let's do some tests. I'm gonna try a few combinations. So first I wanna see if I want the film on the front of the acrylic or the back. This is the color on the front, and this is the color on the back. It's very subtle, but I think the front side looks more vibrant. So now I wanna know if I should layer the texture first with the color on the top or the color first with the texture on top. So let's compare those two. Okay, so the top one has the color on top and the bottom one has the texture on top. I honestly don't think it makes a difference. It's so hard to tell. I decided to layer the texture first, then add the color on top. So now I'm cutting out all the film pieces and getting everything ready for assembly. Okay, so all the pieces for my first panel have been cut out, and I was taking a look at it and I was like, oh, the orange is really bright and the brown is really dark. And I was like, is it too much contrast? Is it too vivid? And then I started playing around with layering the colors. So I layered the pink with the yellow and the brown and the red. And I really like how those mixed colors look, and I think it will blend the panel better together. Once all the pieces are cut, I find the center point of the panel by drawing 2 guide lines. This gives me a starting point for my grid. I begin by placing the first piece of the film in the center and building out from there. This part definitely takes the longest, and I also made a huge mistake. I forgot to use water, which made the whole process so much harder than it needed to be. My red film came in and I thought I'd be able to get through all the cutting yesterday, but I only was able to do one panel, so I still have a lot more to do. So I'm gonna go cut more squares and then we'll meet up once I'm all done. For the long middle panel, I repeated the same process, drawing my guidelines, arranging all the colors and textures, and layering everything onto the acrylic. I forgot to use water and now the film is all iffy, so let's fix it. I'm building wood frames for the acrylic to sit in because if the structure feels temporary, the whole thing will, and I want this to feel like it really belongs here. I ended up choosing a warmer stain so the frames would feel connected to the colors in the acrylic, especially once the sunlight starts shining through them. Okay, all the pieces are done. I just have to put everything together, so it's getting really exciting. I am most tempted to take off the back protective layer. I feel like once I do that, that's really gonna make all the colors really pop and shine, but I'll do that after I glue. To make sure the epoxy bonded properly between the wood and the acrylic, I trimmed the film away from the edges first. Then I applied the glue to the frame and clamped everything tightly into place. Okay, so this big piece, I'm a little bit nervous about gluing it just because the glue is what's gonna make it one piece. Right now it's two pieces. So the glue, I'm hoping will make it one. I think I'm gonna start with the bottom and get that all attached. Yeah, let's do that. Maybe we'll start with the top just because the top has that clean edge because the bottom is where I broke the plastic. So I know the top is a true straight line. Okay, so those are all my clamps. I gotta wait till this top is all dry and then I can do the bottom. But I think it's working. Once the lead lines went on, it finally started to feel like real stained glass. This was so satisfying. I actually found these lead strips on sale, so I'll link them below because they worked really well for this. Okay, it's finally done. All that's left to do is to take off the protective backing on the acrylic, And I think that's gonna make everything really shine. There are a few air bubbles in the film, but I think that's just gonna add to the texture of the piece. And I left a lot of little windows for feta, so I'm super excited to see those. Okay, let's see. Okay, here's the left panel, the center panel, and the right. Wait, I really love these. And the little pupils for feta turned out so cute. Okay, let's install them. I'm obsessed with how this turned out. It makes the light in this room so soft and so warm, and I get that privacy that I was definitely seeking. It just changes the whole vibe of this whole room, and now I'm very tempted to make it out of real glass. But for now, this feels right. I'm curious to know, what would you have done differently? And if you like this video, please subscribe. I'm always creating and trying new things, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye!